I started calisthenics in my late 30s and shortly after suffered a slap tear in both shoulders and golfer's elbow and tennis elbow. I've rehabilitated those injuries without surgery, and now I'm working on my primary goals of a handstand push-up and a one-arm pull-up. And I film 2 videos a day of my workouts and upload them to YouTube so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. All right, team, getting into my warm-up and starting with foam rolling, as I always do. I love foam rolling as the first part of my warm-up. I'd only recommend foam rolling for those of you who have a lot of time. If you don't have a lot of time, there's better things that you can do, but I have more time than the average person, and I do like a little bit of foam rolling. It's a great way to start to stimulate blood flow and also just to get the nervous system ready for the flexibility work that I'm going to be doing. It's mostly, I find that my body stiffens up quite a bit if I don't do foam rolling. I've got some things going on in my lower back that cause my hips to be quite tight. I've got spondylolisthesis and I've got femoral acetabular impingement as well. And because I'm going to be doing some flexibility work today for the hip flexors and for the middle splits, I really want to make sure that I'm warmed up as best as I can. And just a little bit of foam rolling each day really helps to keep the stretching doctors away. And I pay extra care to my adductors and my groin because I'm going to be working on the middle splits today. As part of my workout, I always do strength and flexibility together in the same workout because it's just way more efficient than any other way I've seen anybody do it. And, foam rolling for me is a pretty quick thing. I get through it pretty quickly. People that are learning foam rolling, it takes a bit longer than what I'm doing here, but I can get a really good result in a short amount of time. And so it's really just giving the nervous system, the brain, a different sensation that allows the nervous system to just release some of the tension through the muscles, which is pretty much what happens with foam rolling. So you get this feeling of, immediate relief. So the sensation is, oh wow, I feel better. But what's really happened is that the nervous system has just relaxed the muscles and released them a bit, which is good. That's what we want. I also have super tight hip flexors. So I do this trigger point release with the psorite on my hip flexors. And this is my warm-up, right? Like everybody's warm-up would be individual to them. And with the UMS, what I teach my tribe, with the online coaching that we do, we have a mobility warm-up that people do that's really, really good. It's a really good foundation for you to start with, but over the years of training, your warm-up will evolve to what works for you because everybody's body is different and everybody needs a slightly different warm-up. When you get confident enough with a base warm-up, with a foundational warm-up, you wouldn't want to be trying to mess around with a good warm-up routine when you're just starting out. You want to follow what someone's given you and work with that for a while. But yeah, this is what I do for me because of all the things that I've got going on in my body. So, that's how it is. Okay, so this one I do, this is really a rotator cuff activation, and you can do this as a strength exercise or as a supplementary lift, I should say, for rotator cuff strength, but I do it in my warm-up because it's a really good exercise to do when you've had something like slap tears, like what I've had when you've come out of rehab. Like I'm way out of rehab with any slap tear injury, and I'm into my training. But this is used just to switch on the rotator cuff and say, all right, it's time to work. Let's go to work. So there we go. All right, let's get into the workout now. So now I just do skin the cat. Again, this is definitely not a beginner warm-up. I wouldn't recommend a beginner to just try and jump straight into skin the cat, but this is really good when you can do it because it takes the shoulders through full range of motion for flexion and extension. You know, here I'm in full flexion. When I go through there, I'm in full extension, and it does that under load, which is what we want for a warm-up. We don't want to be stretching. We want to be activating the muscles. All right, warm-up rounds. This is for sure where a lot of people go wrong with their training and why a lot of people suffer injuries. Improper warm-ups. So I'm doing a dumbbell shoulder press today. Whoops, I'm doing a pronated grip, I just remembered. And so what I'm doing now is a 4-3-2-1 warm-up. So I do 4 reps at about 50% of what I'm going to lift. And then I go up to, you don't need a calculator for this, but about 70% of what you're going to lift. Okay, 3 reps. And you want to do the reps at the same tempo and with the same intention as when you're going to be doing your working set. Okay, and now I go up to about 85-90% of what I'm going to lift in my working sets. Two reps. And now I'll go to 100%. So now this is the working weight, what I'm going to be lifting for my first set. So now I'm really safely warmed up for my first set, and I had that opportunity to go, oh, that doesn't feel good today, and readjust if I want to lift less weight. Because I'm right at the end of dealing with golfer's elbow, and it's still just kind of just not 100%. That's all it is. It's not 100%, and I want to make it 100% before I get into exercise specific stuff for a one-arm pull-up. So any one-arm work. So I'm using these Swissies for my pull-ups because they have these paddles that deload the wrist flexors. So it's less load on the golfer's elbow, which is good. So you might be thinking to yourself, I thought you were working towards a handstand push-up. Why are you doing shoulder press? And that's a great question. Shoulder pressing and handstand push-ups both are called vertical push patterns, where you're pushing away from you in a vertical plane versus a horizontal plane. Handstand push-up or a pike push-up or any of the calisthenics movements are considered closed kinetic chain vertical push movements. And dumbbell shoulder press is an open kinetic chain, vertical push movement. So same muscles, but just using the body in a different way. And I'm doing that because I haven't done any dumbbell pressing for a long time. And I've developed some imbalances. My right side has become a bit stronger than my left side. And it's become noticeable. And structural imbalances like that from left side to right side are harder to overcome with calisthenics than they are with dumbbells. So I'm basically still working towards my goal of a handstand push-up, but I'm taking care of structural imbalances in my body, which is really important to do. It's really important to identify your weak links and turn them into strengths, or else unchecked, can become very problematic. $22.5 kilos. This is more than I lifted my last few workouts. It was good. Felt good. That was good. Feeling strong. I was sick for last week, so I basically did a deload week. I still did something every day, but wasn't doing any max effort strength training. Not even close. But it's given my body the ability to adapt, or not the ability, it's given me the space to go through some adaptation, through recovery. That's how we adapt to our workouts. So all that good training I did in January, deload week, and bang, come out feeling good. So I'm going to do pull-ups now. I always pair vertical push with vertical pull. So structural balance isn't just about left side to right side like with dumbbells, but it's also about pushing and pulling. You want to balance between pushing and pulling. And also because one of my goals is one-arm pull-up, so working on those two goals together. All right, I finished 5 sets of the pull-ups and the shoulder press. So now I'm on to my first supplementaries. And I'm doing a dumbbell lateral raise here. I don't go all the way down because that deloads the deltoids. So that's why I do this reduced range of motion. So now I'm into my middle splits training, and this is my active recovery between my supplementary exercises for my shoulders. So my shoulders are relaxing here. They're given the opportunity to relax, but I'm using the time to do flexibility work for my hips, which is how we do it in the UMS. We do flexibility for the lower body while we're doing strength training for the upper body. So it's a really good use of time. And so I'm just letting the weights push me down, but now I'm going to contract my glutes for an end range contraction, which is very hard to do. And relax. And then again. All right. Now it's time for my lat pull downs, and this is what you do with home gyms. You just make use of what you've got. And so I just had to look around at what I had, and I have this beam here so I can hang some cables, and that means I can do lat pull downs, which is pretty cool. All right, 2 more rounds of this. Okay, we're on to arms now, so I'm doing my biceps first. And I'm doing a neutral grip because it allows me to keep pushing without making golfer's elbow worse. Tricep extensions now, oops. Meant to be doing on an incline. You can get an idea now for how I structure my workouts because, you know, I've done my primary movements, so you saw me do those at the start. Those are the big compound lifts that require the most amount of energy. And, you know, like pull-ups, you need to be pretty fresh to do good pull-ups, you know, full range pull-ups like what I was doing. And then I always pair those, I always do antagonistic movements together, so a push and a pull. And then I do supplementary lifts, so more isolated movement exercises where it doesn't matter if I'm not fresh. Like I don't need to be fresh to do tricep extensions. I just do less weight and I can still lift if I'm fatigued. And I'm not really pushing for much tricep development at the moment. I'm really just doing it to balance out my biceps. You know, always push and pull. So pull movement with a push movement so that the muscles that control the elbow are balanced. But I'm really working on building up my biceps. Going to get those guns bigger because that's going to reduce the load on my forearms, get rid of the golfer's elbow. Okay, more middle splits training now. So this is end range contractions for my glutes, which is a really important part of middle splits, getting strong in the glutes. Woo! Now I'm just finishing my arms off with a supinated grip bicep curl for 3 sets. I'm lifting a bit heavier here. All right, now I'm onto my rotator cuff work. These are really important exercises that I just neglected for way too long, and I paid the price. Rotator cuffs strength is so important for shoulder health, for prevention of things like slap tears, but also for rehab. I'm slipping everywhere. My arm's slipping. Use a towel on my knee so I don't have skin on skin sweating. Oh man. And yeah, these are really important. When I started doing rotator cuff work after my slap tears, I couldn't even do 1 kilo. And this is 7.5 kilos now, so big improvement. That's taken me years to get that strength back. Rebuilding yourself is not a quick process. Okay, let's do some middle splits now. Okay, now for my actual middle splits training, I'm doing a superset. I'm going to do another end range contraction for my glutes. So I'm going to really try and, I'm doing like a middle splits where gravity is helping me get my legs wider, but I'm contracting my glutes as hard as I can. I'll just do 3 10-second contractions. Get real foot cramps when I do this one. Oh. Oh, cramp city. All right. And then when you superset, you go straight into an active middle split. It's hard for the nervous system to contract the adductors too much and fight against the middle split. So first set, I never go as low. I never go to my max effort. Always. And try and get into a posterior pelvic tilt. And really contract those adductors, squeezing the legs together. Oh man. I got bitten by a fire ant yesterday on the bottom of my foot, and it's so swollen and painful. Bloody ants, man. It's fully swollen and it really hurts. That was the worst. Oh. Ah. Oh man, it's brutal. I've got to record my times. And then once I come down into a middle split like this, like just sitting here for 30 seconds is good as well. And you can do a few contractions, like contract my glutes now and my quads. Just get used to contracting those antagonistic muscles at end range, so in their shortened range, which is really hard. And it's one of the limiting factors in middle splits. Your inability to contract your glutes and quads at end range to balance out the risk of injury or to mitigate the risk of injury. The nervous system contracts the adductors in a shorter range to limit flexibility. So it's not just about stretching the adductors, it's about strengthening the glutes and the quads as well. And it's a tough thing to do. Oh. All right. One more round. All right, here we go. Round 3 of the middle splits. Usually a little bit more flexible by the third round. Oh, you got to work really hard with end range contractions. It's not easy at all. It's got to be like you're going to cramp when you do it. All right. Loaded stretching, which is what this is. This is different. Here you've got to be careful because you can really injure yourself here. It's hard to injure yourself on end range contractions, but it's easy to on loaded stretching. Squeeze the legs together, contracting the adductors. Come on. Oh. Woo. One of the biggest mistakes I made in my earlier stages of doing the middle splits was trying to force progression. Doing exactly what I did just then, but trying to force myself to go deeper. And I tore my adductors so many times. It's a really bad way to go about it. You've just got to allow the flexibility to come and know, you know, like you saw, the reason I showed all 3 of those sets is so you could see how in the third set, if you rewind it, you'll see the third set I'm further down, I'm deeper than I was in the first set. When I was learning the middle splits, when I was getting into this loaded stretching thing and end range strength thing to start with, if I had a day where I wasn't going as deep as I was the day before, I'd push myself and go, oh, this is silly, I can go deeper than this. And I tore my adductors so many times. And then you come back the next day and you can like barely get past here because, you know, you've got tears in them. muscles. The other big mistake I made was I did it every day. Not good. Every second day or every third day. Maximum. You can even get good progress doing middle splits once a week. You have to do more volume than what I've done here. You'd do a bigger session. But personally, I prefer to do it 2 or 3 times a week now, but just with less volume in each session. Whew, all right. Now on to my golfer's elbow specific rehab. So golfer's elbow is inflammation in the tendons of the wrist flexors that connect onto the medial epicondyle, which is why it's called medial epicondylitis. And the reason it's called golfer's elbow is because golfers often sustain it. And so you have to do, all the stuff that I've been doing in this workout has been my golfer's elbow workout. If you're in the earlier phases and you're not as strong as me and you don't have the same training experience as me, you'd do a different program, but it's the same principles. It's strengthening the scapular stabilizers, strengthening the pulling muscles in the shoulder, strengthening the biceps, and especially strengthening the wrist flexors like this. So I'll save this right to the end because, it's the exercise that I don't really need to be fresh for at all. Oh, man. Oh, it really burns. Really burns. Okay. And then, just like every other exercise, we balance the pushing and pulling pattern. So in the wrist, if you do wrist flexion, we have to do wrist extension, just to create structural balance in the joint. And also it helps with tennis elbow as well, and to prevent tennis elbow. And I'm right, I could not worry about this, but because one of my goals this year is a one-arm pull-up, once I start doing high intensity single arm training, that's what's going to be the weak link. When you start doing any high intensity training, whatever is the weak link is the thing that goes. Like if you put pressure on a chain, if there's one weak link, that's the weak link that breaks. So knowing that that's what's coming for me, high intensity single arm, unilateral pulling work, I have to fix that weak link. It has to not be a weak link. And right now it is still a weak link, which is why I'm doing this. And hopefully I can be symptom-free after another 2 program phases. So this is a new program phase that I'm on this week. A program phase, aka a mesocycle, goes for 4 weeks in my training and in the UMS. So I'll do 4 weeks, then I'll do another 4 weeks, and hopefully, so I'll do a different program, of course, but another mesocycle of working through this golfer's elbow. And hopefully that'll be the end of it. All right, 2 more sets of that and I'm done. I'll see you in tomorrow's workout.